we've had tremendous success in the retail space, all the different kind of varieties that comes in, especially as the world has moved more and more to e-commerce and away from brick and mortar storefronts. A lot more of that business is being transacted online. And so that's what a lot of our teams are doing, is helping process those sorts of things.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast, where we get to meet the experts who are scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about Webhelp with Luke Pattison, who is the Director of Business Development at Webhelp. Luke, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Max.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you a part of this. And before we jump into Webhelp, who you are, what challenges you solve for your customers. Love to just kind of give you the floor to tell the audience a little bit about yourself. I've had the opportunity to meet you, but tell me a little bit about yourself, your role, and at Webhelp.
Absolutely. So I am a director of business development at Webhelp, and here we kind of break up our services into different practice categories, practice groups, and I'm part of the enterprise B2B sales practice group, and I'm the head of sales for the US for that group. So really working to identify new clients that we want to work with in that space, folks who we can help accelerate their revenues through our lead generation efforts, our full cycle sales, our demand generation. We do a whole lot of things, all related to how can we help our clients grow their revenues.
That's very helpful. So it sounds like you wear a lot of hats. Yeah, you're building out the teams here, and I want to talk to a little bit about how like each of these groups specifically. So if you don't mind, you're focused on enterprise. What are some of the other groups that you guys have?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Webhelp's core business really started. It's a French company originally, and so they started off really in the customer care, customer service space, that business process outsourcing vertical in general, but really focused on that customer experience. Over time, as they grew, they began to fold in other organizations doing similar type of work, kind of focusing on organizations that were a good cultural fit for the type of company that they wanted to be. And started adding some other competencies to that portfolio of solutions as well. Really still kind of trying to keep that idea of a customer experience and a customer journey at the heart of all of it. So the practice groups as they stand today, we still have our core business, which is that customer service, customer experience, right? So if you have support issues with a product that you bought, if you are looking to return something that you bought from an online marketplace, chances are you might be talking to a Webhelp person when you call in to do that. The other practices, obviously, Webhelp Enterprise, that's our B2B sales services, the one that I'm a part of. We also have our digital content services, which is relatively new in the grand scheme of things as well, but is focused on all things content, in particular things like content moderation, localization, things of that nature. So again, when you think about social media platforms, YouTube, those sorts of things, wherever your listeners might be listening to us now, there needs to be folks who can go through that content and make sure it's appropriate, it's not harmful. And we have tons of teams doing that for various different platforms. Tough work to do for sure, but it's something that is very necessary. And then our final practice group is our advisory services. And that's where really we provide consulting services of all types around business process transformation, what have you. And really, I think we excel in applying some of the lessons that we've learned over many years of managing such a large organization. We've got we refer to all of our team members as game changers because that's what they do. We've got 125,000 game changers globally across, I think it's over 120 different locations now. And so we've learned a lot in how to manage big teams and how to operate efficiently. And so that's that final advisory services practice, is kind of bringing that to bear for our clients and helping teach some of those lessons to them.
I had no idea the organization was that large. It's definitely a big global organization for sure. And
definitely,
you mentioned, maybe moderating on social media. I even heard maybe, some retail experience from like the customer service, customer experience side. So who would you say is like your ideal customer if you did have to put them like in buckets, like for moderation or for localization? Who's your ideal customer in those specific areas, and who might be your ideal customer when thinking about like customer experience and user experience?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's tough to really pin it down to a single vertical or a single type of company, because really we touch everything. But in particular, we've had tremendous success in the retail space, all the different kind of varieties that comes in, especially as the world has moved more and more to e-commerce and away from brick and mortar storefronts. A lot more of that business is being transacted online. And so you can't just talk to somebody in the store and say, or take your item that you purchased and it didn't fit back to the store and say, hey, this didn't fit, can I get a refund? But that still needs to be done. And so that's what a lot of our teams are doing, is helping process those sorts of things. So retail is huge for us in that customer service space. We do a lot of B2B customer service as well, though. And of course, the B2B sales, which is kind of my specialty and my group's specialty. But any organization where we play really well in high tech, for example, anything where the products that are being sold require a certain level of expertise to install, implement, understand, and service, we do really well in those spaces, because we're not just that sort of level one answering the phone and then passing you to somebody else. We also have very technical folks who are working with our clients to get certified on these products and understand them in and out, and be able to provide all the help a customer may need, whether that's a business or an individual consumer.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I was thinking in my head, like, okay, maybe it's like a lot of, HR type tech companies, like semiconductor, potentially even. Are there other, there's some sub segments within high tech that maybe are a bigger focus for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, really just about anything, but I think anything that is a subscription or consumption-based service is a really good candidate for us, because I'm thinking about cloud providers, networking solutions, things of that nature, because there has to be an ongoing relationship with that vendor, right? People have to understand what changes are being rolled out to that platform and how that's going to impact what they're using it for. And so we help kind of bridge that gap between what the brand is doing, the innovations they're making for their product, and how the customer's interacting with that product. We provide that connective tissue so that customers don't feel like they're getting left behind.
For sure. I mean, I can see from my perspective, kind of the value and definitely having an outside organization, if there isn't necessarily the amount of teams or technology to support, an internal team to do this. So like, why would a company, want to use a BPO like you guys? Like what's the value in that maybe, the audience may not know right now?
That's a really good question. And I think it's very timely too. I mean, especially as we look at layoffs happening in tech and all those other trends that are kind of scary in the market right now. And I think there's a perception that when it comes to outsourcing, there's a benefit for the company, certainly, because they're saving money as opposed to doing it themselves. But I really think that there's benefits for everybody involved in that interaction, because yes, the companies themselves, the brands themselves, it takes a lot of effort to staff a team, to hire people, to train people, to do all of those things that are necessary to have the people in those roles doing those jobs. And the brands want to focus on their products, right? They want to continue innovating. They want to continue exploring new partnerships with other companies, all of those things that are helping their business grow. And so they get a tremendous benefit of outsourcing by being able to focus on those things. I think the last piece that I want to mention is the value for the customer at the end of the day. I think everyone has an experience they can refer back to of calling into a support line, and maybe the person on the other end didn't quite understand what you were asking, or you didn't quite understand the resolution they were giving you, or what have you. And that can, color the perception of what it's like to work with an outsourcing organization. But I think there are tremendous benefits to the customer, because our game changers have such a important and dramatic motivation to deliver that best experience they possibly can, because we'll lose the business if we don't do that, right? It's really what it comes down to. We're competing with other organizations doing the same thing. And so we've got that really strong motivation. And the fact of the matter is, we know that work is tough, right? And so we do so many things to try and make the lives and work lives of our game changers as enjoyable as possible, even when we're doing some of that really tough work. So I think that comes through in the experience for the customer at the end of the day. You're going to have a better time talking to someone who's happy to be there and happy to be talking to you than someone who's doing it just because they need that minimum wage to pay the next bill, right? So I think everybody benefits in the long run.
I can definitely relate myself. I worked out in outsourced BPO as well. We had teams in all over the world: Guadalajara, Mexico, Philippines, Kiev. I will say, they're just it's amazing to work with a global organization. You can tell, these people who are at these companies, who are doing the hard work, the dirty work, that, you and I would rather not do as well. They do it all with a smile, and they, as long as they're treated right, they're going to be treating the customers right. So it's kind of that, paying it forward almost, right? But we're going to give people the opportunity to be successful in their roles, and there's more people in the world that can do a lot of work in comparison just here in the States too. It's definitely something I can get behind. I just love working with international teams too myself. But there are a lot of companies in this BPO world. There's a lot of companies in this space. You guys have a pretty broad presence in Europe, and you're kind of focused now on enterprise here in the US, right? So what has made the success in Europe? What's the secret sauce to that success? And why are customers choosing you guys in Europe? And what do you think you can do to make it successful here in the US too, and focus in this market?
Well, I can't share all the secret sauce or I'll get fired, but no, I think it's a combination of things, but I think really the core of it is the culture at this organization. And I know that's a little bit cliche to say, but it's really true. And the credentials and the numbers and everything else speak for themselves on that. We recently got a award from, I think it was Great Places to Work. It's either Great Places to Work or Best Places to Work. I forget which one. But we were ranked number 8 in the world. And that just absolutely blew me away. It's such a cool thing to be part of an organization like that and doing this kind of work, because again, like you said, a lot of it is tough work to do. And so I think that's just a tremendous testament to the environment that we create at our sites, the type of people that we hire. Our Chief Growth Officer, Craig Gibson, was talking to us when I first onboarded about kind of how Webhelp has grown. And a lot of that growth has been through acquisitions, right? Folding other BPOs into the organization. And he said something that really stuck out to me, and that was that they of course looked at profitability, they did their due diligence, but the number one deciding factor of whether we acquired a company or not was, are they a cultural fit for us? And if the answer to that was no, it didn't matter what everything else looked like. It was not going to happen. And so I think that as well is a testament to the fact that, that is not just lip service. It is a core value of our business.
Yeah. Building a culture of respect and trust is a big thing in any organization for sure, but especially in the BPO service world.
Absolutely.
It reflects downstream to the customers. They can see it, they can feel it, they can read between the lines, even though we're all virtual.
And even internally too, and to our clients, we have amazing attrition rates. I've been spending a lot of time with the folks leading our sites in the Americas in particular, and looking at our sites in Bogota and El Salvador and all across Latin America. Our attrition rates are incredibly low compared to the industry standard, sub 5% in many cases. And again, that's something that blew me away. But that has such a dramatic impact from a value standpoint for our clients, because the amount of money lost, the amount of time lost when someone leaves and takes all of the knowledge that they've gained with them is tremendous. And so to be able to avoid that, I think that's why people want to work with us at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, how do you think, just pivoting just for a minute,
Sure.
Well, how do you think like sales and marketing, I guess, has changed over the past few years? I know I've been impacted by it. Even coming to this company, like we focus on content, and next thing you know, ChatGPT, AI, like the big topic that everyone wants to talk about, and maybe it's like this big scary thing, but it's also this really useful thing that's not going to take our jobs. So like, how are you guys thinking about AI and utilizing that in your sales and marketing, or using that with your own teams?
Yeah. It's a great question, and I'm a hardcore nerd, so I've been following OpenAI for years, and it's kind of funny to me that ChatGPT all of a sudden had this incredible rise to sort of the cultural zeitgeist. But yeah, I mean, I go back to I'll go all the way back to my first time as a BDR. I had a phone and I had a database of phone numbers. And I was calling people all day, every day, and had remarkable success. It still kind of amazes me that I was able to have success that way. The amount of tools and ways we have to engage with people has absolutely exponentially increased just in the last decade. And really even in the last 5 years, if I'm being honest. And I think COVID really sort of accelerated that. I think what that taught a lot of industries is that the work that you're doing in an office can be done from home. And I think that was kind of an interesting and sometimes painful lesson for salespeople to learn. The sort of old school wine and dine method of showing up, flying out to your customer's location and taking them to their favorite restaurant and talking about the type of business you want to do with them. People started to realize, A, that's really expensive, and B, you can do that virtually. And so I think that has been a big cultural shift when it comes to sales and marketing as well. I think there's this change in traditionally there's always been sort of you have to distinguish between inbound and outbound, right? What's organically coming to you versus where you're going out to find. And now I think those lines are becoming more and more blurred. I think there's lots of studies out there that say most people who are in a buying process get about 60% or more of the way through that buying process before they ever engage with a salesperson. And so we have all of these amazing things like tools that can show you intent data, tools that can automate your email sequences, tools that can automate you reaching out to people on LinkedIn, right?
Even building sequences.
Exactly. And so I think what's going to happen is the pendulum's going to swing back a little bit. And I think people are going to have to realize that tools for the sake of tools are not an effective way to get the job done. You have to start with strategy and then build your set of tools to align to that strategy, right? And I think that's an important question for marketers to ask themselves as well, is whose attention do I want to attract? You know, I think obviously we do that today, but I think we have to get a little bit more layered and nuanced with that question and say not only what type of organization, what type of role, but where is this person whose attention I want to get in their buying cycle, right? Do I want to catch them at the very beginning when they haven't even thought that they need what I have to sell? Do I want to catch them when they've decided they want what I need, but are not talking to me yet? I think that's kind of the next layer of that strategy in my mind.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I mean, there's really 3 different types of visitors that are coming to your website in the first place. It's going to be people who know who you are, potentially even work with you, existing customers there to like talk to their rep, someone who wants to like see what else is new. Like, okay. There's definitely going to be people who, you know who you are. They know what you do. They know what you do is what they need, and they're going to reach out, right? They're finding you on Google. They're searching for you guys. They're doing all this research. I even heard the statistic. You said 60% of people do all their research before even contacting someone. I heard it's 80%. I think it's like
I'm not surprised.
Like 80% of research is done before someone ever reaches out. So, everyone's doing their research online, and then there's going to be people who, the third audience is pretty much going to be people who don't know who you are. They don't know if it's, right for me. And I think it's all about how we get those people over the fence talking to your team. Like, how do we convert those last 2 audiences as quickly as possible, or with a good, in the right place at the right time with the right information? How can we do that incongruent with each other, so that way they are reaching out, we do get them to a conversation with your team? And I think that's really where, a lot of organizations are really focusing on right now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So what is, from your perspective, you're focusing on, enterprise here at B2B, right? Like, how are you planning to kind of grow and scale this side of the business right now?
Yeah, well, it's a multifaceted strategy. And the first piece of that comes in working with our global account management team. We have some great relationships with some very large organizations that operate globally. And the fact of the matter is, in many times when you're speaking to enterprise organizations, one business unit may have 0 clue what another business unit is doing. And so if we're working with one but not the other, it's almost like it's a brand new customer, right? We, of course, are looking for companies that are growing and that want to expand into new markets. I think that's part of the value that we bring to the table, is the ability to have conversations in markets where those companies may not have a presence yet, in the native language, with people who understand the culture and are part of that culture, and really help increase awareness of those brands and establish a foothold in those markets. So that's definitely one of the key pieces. The other piece is, this may sound a little weird, but companies that have grown maybe a little too fast. What I tend to see is, once a startup reaches that unicorn phase, they're getting ready to go public. Now they are starting to think not just about the board, but about all of the new shareholders that they're going to have, and the annual reports they're going to have to put out. They're now going to have to show how profitable they are. And so I think being able to have a partner in that strategy for how to make sure the revenue coming in is matching what you're spending on is an incredibly important part of taking that next step. And those are the companies I want to be talking to, because we know that we've done it for countless organizations, and I think we can be that trusted partner to help people kind of make it to that enterprise level.
Yep. Definitely multifaceted strategy. And honestly, it's a great way to find business, right? Like, let's look at our existing customer base. Let's look internally. Let's look at different areas that we're not helping businesses, and let's identify those opportunities and start new conversations, right? We're already have a foot in the door. How can we expand with you? How can we look at expanding our organization? And then I love like how you're thinking about like looking at the broader market as a whole. Some great tools out there that you can potentially look at in addition, obviously looking at the 10Ks and 10Qs of publicly traded companies, right? Those are great ways to look at and see what they're actually doing. But the ones who are just getting that funding and haven't necessarily gone public, there's some also great newsletters out there. There's one that I follow, which actually tracks all the funding data throughout the entire world. So it's not just here in the US, but it's companies who recently got funding. The newsletter is called FinSMEs, FINSMES. It's I can share it and share it in the link. Yeah, it's basically an announcement of every company who got funding that day, where they got the funding from, what does that company do, and where are they located. So it gives you some really interesting information to then utilize to then start focusing outreach in those companies potentially, if that's who your ICP is, the companies who recently got funding, who are growing out their organizations. This is a great place to start, as it is kind of like live data that comes in every single day to your inbox.
Very cool. Very
cool. So what's something you guys want to be celebrating a year from now? Maybe something for yourself that you thought about as you're getting your wheels turning here in the US, and maybe from a company standpoint as well.
Yeah. I think I'll start from the company standpoint, because it kind of dovetails with my own aspirations, but I think we want to be more of a household name in the US. We have done that in Europe. We're in the process of doing that in APAC and LATAM. I think the US is an incredible market, obviously, to work in, and we want to get to that level here as well, because I think we have every right to be, and I think companies in the US will really enjoy working with us. So that's definitely an organizational goal. As far as personal goals, I would love to be able to provide more thought leadership around sales in general, inside sales, digital sales, sales operations, all of those things. I've spent my whole career learning the ins and outs of that by working with my clients. Again, back to just kind of the experience of working for a BPO, you get to learn every single part of the process. And so I would love to be able to talk about that more and share my very biased opinions with people. So part of why I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Yeah, me too. And, as we wrap things up here, like what else, that is top of mind for you that you think you want to share that the listeners, need to know about, Webhelp, maybe that we haven't covered thus far? Any new like explorations for you guys, and, or opening up different business units? Feel free, the floor is kind of yours here to share maybe something that we haven't wanted to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that I would love everybody to know is we don't see ourselves as just a business process outsourcer, right? We're not here just to put butts in seats and do some predefined task that you already have fully mapped out. We want to partner with you. We want to build the strategy with you. We want to understand your business and your goals, and then give you some ideas of how we can help you get there, right? I think that's one of the things that is not done enough in this type of work is being able to really be that strategic partner and help kind of guide the direction of how that business evolves and transforms. And so that's what I'd love for everyone to think about. If they're looking for that kind of partner, let us know.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, that partnership is going to be key, right? Especially for you and your position. What you're tasked to do is you need to make sure that there's great partnerships already in place and see where we can expand on those partnerships. So it does make a lot of sense that that's going to be a focus for you guys. Where can people find you, Luke? Tell us where you're going to be, if you're going to be at any events or conferences coming up, if you're going to be on any other, appearances at all, or, if the company has webinars or anything coming up, feel free to use this time to plug yourself in the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say one of the best ways, find us on LinkedIn. Webhelp has an account. Webhelp Enterprise has our own account. We do a lot of fun stuff on there. It's not all, purely business. We do a lot of celebrating of our teams as well. If people want to look me up on LinkedIn, please, by all means. I love connecting with folks. I love talking inside sales, and BDRs, hit me up. I might give you a meeting, add to your numbers, and why not? I've done the work. I know how hard it is. But I am going to be at the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals, their conference in April in Chicago. If anyone's going to be there, definitely look me up and we can connect. And yeah, feel free to check us out. Oh, check out our Instagram. I'm plugging it. I've been told to plug it. I created an Instagram account myself to follow it. I'm a little bit old school, so the only Instagram presence in our household was my wife's account for our cats, but now I have one and I'm following Webhelp. So
yeah, what's the account name?
Oh God, I should have thought of that before I said that. Maybe we can link it in the description somewhere.
We can definitely link it. Yeah, we can put some links for your LinkedIn and yeah, for the IG account for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your time, Luke, and really enjoyed the conversation. I feel like I've learned a lot about Webhelp and where your focuses are and who you guys are as an organization. So I definitely appreciate you being here and being a part of the Business Ninjas podcast today. And hopefully the audience can, reaches out. And if you guys need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to Luke.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. It's great talking to you.
Good seeing you, Luke. Yeah, have a good rest of the day. Cheers. Bye, all.